you recall Goosebumps' an old story and how absolutely horrid it was? Well, this Twilight Zone tale is the exact polar opposite, and better in every way.
Oh, Cat, you really subverted our expectations.
No! This episode is one that people rarely remember due to not being a smash hit like the recognizable Twilight Zone tales, but I will be the first to declare that this story is a charming filler episode. Kick the Can is a slow burn story, but it has some of the most innocent whimsy and heart behind it. Not as grand as Night of the Meek, but this one does have its own cute moments. In this story, we follow a group of elderly people stuck at a retirement home, feeling gloomy because of how unhappy the joint is. This tale explores one of the most bleak primal fears we all share, the fear of getting old. The elderly folks here feel useless, depressed, and unhappy about how they aren't allowed to do much of anything. As the episode goes on, even we, the audience, start to feel trapped here, just as much as they do. Won't lie, this episode has some slow moments in it. But to be fair, it all complements the story arc. You see, the old people want to go out and have fun, do something, as do we since we remain mostly in this old folks' hotel, waiting for them to find something to do or express themselves. The primary elder character, a man named Charles, sees kids having fun outside on the streets, inspiring him to try and play easy games like they do. Basically, live like a kid, kicking cans, playing hide and seek, and chilling outside. Once he starts doing little games, Charles feels younger and finds himself more spry than he thought he was. Excited by this, Charles is convinced that he's actually becoming younger, so he convinces his fellow prisoners at the home to party with him, since it could make them all feel happier and free. However, one old coot, a grouchy elder named Ben, thinks Charles is full of a lot of hooey, and warns him to give up on these childish antics, since they old now. Apparently, Ben has been Charles's BFF since they were kids, and he fears that his bro is going crazy from age.
Old people are the greatest. They're full of wisdom and experience.
So he tries to bring him back to him by telling him the harsh reality that they're too old for fun. But Charles is a dreamer and says bullocks to that, so he convinces the other old folks to break out at curfew at night like a bunch of kids, so they can play Kick the Can.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
I mean no exaggeration when I say this feels like the reverse old story. While Stein's plot was a disturbing use of elderly people themes, this episode is a more positive approach over the fears of aging and old people fighting for a reason to live again, which packs more depth than Goosebumps. They trick the orderlies and escape to play, but Ben rats them out.
Shoot us!
However, when they go hunting for oldies, they don't find them. Instead, we get our twist ending. The doctors and nurses fail to find them because Charles and his old buddies have magically transformed into children and are now free to roam the forests playing eternally young forever. Ben spots his de-aged bro Charles playing on the streets and realizes that he was wrong for not believing in magic and begs his bro to take him with him. But Charles is now so young that he doesn't recognize his bestie and runs off into the night to play Neverland Forever as Ben resigns himself to his lonely retirement. It's a tad cheesy, but I really like it. Kick the Can is a timeless, underrated, heartwarming fairy tale that teaches us how you're never too old to have fun. Your age is just a number, since the only thing stopping you from living a fulfilling life is yourself, once you lose faith in you. Why spend your final days in misery when you can use your remaining moments while physical to head out and live? a truly remarkable theme fully dived into by the Twilight Zone. Kick the Can is a lovely, uplifting story, which goes against the usual dark themes the series had, in order to give us a motivating lesson on why we should all go out and live while we're still able, which is naturally a phenomenal moral to a simple episode. Now, if you can believe it or not, there was a remake version of this story, featured on the Twilight Zone movie, directed by Steven Spielberg. But all I will say is that I am not a huge fan of it. I think it totally misses the point of the original. It robbed the story of all the magic, and I hated how Autobot Jazz overly explained everything. It's not the worst Twilight Zone remake, but it's another fine example of how they just couldn't recapture that same electrifying energy. But that's a story for another time. The original is still a touching stroke of inspiration, which Twilight Zone fans should give more praise to, thanks to the beautiful moral and upbeat tone. I won't lie, it's not a perfect episode, since I think its huge weakness is the very sluggish pacing, because it can get a bit too drab and long-winded at times. However, I will argue that this is in the good stories category, for adding some nice variety for this show by tackling relatable issues in a comforting way. So I can grant this story a gold skull. Kick the Can is a more cutesy fantasy fable, but it's one that could cure all those sad feels. While some people might look at this as an old schmaltzy waste of time, much like an elder, it does hide great wisdom.
Wait for me! Charlie! It's me!
The Twilight Zone.